I will never get paid for YouTube. I will never really care about it. All right. I need you all listening right now, so put down your pencils, quit looking at your test. Here's how this is going to work, and this is different, but we're heading into quarter two, and some things are going to be changing. Your way to go from wherever you are, like right now, whatever grade you end up giving yourself, if you are not master, which this doesn't mean, oh, I'm going to give myself mastery so I don't have any other work to do. Yeah, then you and I are going to need to have a conversation, because if your work doesn't reflect mastery of skills, and yet you tell yourself you're mastered, we need to have a big conversation about like being honest with yourself. So our family meeting this morning, I did not plan that. Like I had no say in that happening. We just like Mr. Cabilo decided we needed to talk about some things. I've already been seeing that from some people. Like, and if that was you, you know it was you. We've had conversations about plan book or like assignment completion or like lying to parents about things or things like that. What it really comes down to, you guys got to start being honest with yourself. And some of you are really good at this. You come in and you're like, I know I can't do this. I struggled with it in elementary. Like, I need you to help me. And other ones you hide in the corner, right? Like Mr. Cabilo was talking about, you hid in the corner of the library and you just chatted and wasted your time, and like now you got nothing done on the science project. You need to be honest with yourself. If it is time that you should be working and you have work to do your work. Don't act like a child and say, well, I'll do that later. I'm going to sit here and look at memes. That doesn't accomplish anything. So we right now are going to go over as much of the test as we can. Everybody needs a blank sheet of graph paper out, because if you miss the question, you're going to write down the corrected version of it. There's graph paper back there, and then that stacks out with graph paper here, and then I'll replace that stack over there. Oh, there is graph paper. Somebody just moved it. That is from my tree. So that effect that's happening is called checking, which I just learned about yesterday. Um, so it's the cracking as it dries, because that isn't sliced evenly. The top of it's thinner than the bottom. So the top of it dried quickly and pulled itself apart, while the bottom of it's drying slowly. So like that, I'm not going to do anything with that. That's probably going to end up being fire. But I brought it in. I think trees are cool. The rings and how they grow and everything. So here's what's up, and I want you guys to hear this, because like as you get into the year and as you get more progressings or things like that, like I need you to set up your mind correctly. It's okay to be progressing at something. Slade and I were just talking about that slice of my tree there. I would adamantly, which means like definitely, like for sure, say I'm progressing at cutting down trees. I accidentally hit my neighbor's house a little bit. It bent his gutter. Luckily, I was able to fix it. But I was not mastered. It did not go perfectly. Now, I would probably say I'm mastered on changing oil in a car, because I've been doing it since I was 14. My brother got me under his car when I was 14 years old, and the first time I changed oil, and ever since then, now I take it to a shop because it's so cheap at the local shops, like it's not even really worth my time. But if I needed to change my oil, I'm confident I could do it, and probably blindfolded. Like, that's how familiar I am with all of those components. That I would say I'm mastered at. Cutting down trees? Definitely not. So, I know that I can get better. And I know that since I'm not mastered at that, I need to put some safeguards in place. I need to have safety lines. I need to have a guideline. I need to have extra people there to help me. I need help, because I'm not mastered. You got to start being honest with yourself. Okay? So, if you don't know how to do this stuff, that's okay. But it's a growth opportunity that you can get better at something. So I'm going to run through one really fast, and I can help you independently if you want, and then we're going to take some time with the other ones. I have 20 minutes for sure left, and I think we can probably do this. But guys, with the being honest with yourself, you got to be honest with me. If you need me to go over something again or not move on yet, like tell me. Okay, you can't hide behind the like, I'll just sit here and hope like it doesn't like it. Trust me. It's going to start to matter more. We're going to start to have more assessments more frequently. Like quarter two, you're going to have a lot more math grades in math, because quarter one, I know I assign a lot of homework and stuff like that, but I try not to overwhelm your math and like your grades and things like that. So the biggest issues I saw in number one was this split right here. And I know my test up here looks different than yours because I modified the layout once I like download the test. These are multiplication. These are all addition. So when I have a negative times a negative, what's the opposite of a negative? Positive. You guys can just shout these out today. I'm not going to call on people because that kind of puts you like on the spot. I'm not going to use cards. This is just like us having a group conversation. So that comes out to be positive. Same numbers, but only one negative. So negative. Then we have good guys, bad guys. Right? If I have a bad guy 2, and then another bad guy walks in of 16, do they fight against each other? No, they get along. They turn into bad guy 18. If I have bad guy 2 and in walks good guy 16, like Thor or somebody, like, who wins? Yeah, good guy. By how much? 14. And then good guy of 2, in walks bad guy of 16. Same situation, except now the tables are turned. Bad guy wins by 14. Now, guys, I have been writing these assessments targeted to what we've been doing on the practice work. And none of this is meant to make you feel bad. Okay, I'm just being honest with you. If you didn't do well on this assessment, you can probably think back to your practice work and you didn't give it enough attention or respect. You just like wanted to get it done, and you didn't really care if you had right answers. You didn't really care to go use the help tools or come ask me for help. If you didn't do all of that, you can probably in your mind like trace that back. So start making adjustments to how you do your practice work and how we learn these things. Notice that number 2 on your test is not multiple choice. Those are the sort of edits that I do. So even if in the question bank that I use it was multiple choice, I removed those. And I essentially just told you, like, figure out if her answer is right or wrong by verification, by like checking it. So we set up -3 plus 1. Oh, that does work. -2. And we set up -3 times 1. Oh, that does work. Oh, so she's right. That's all you have to do is show that she's right. So that, like, this is not on your test. None of this shows up on your test. But it was asking, like, just check if she's right. And then if you found out that she was wrong, you'd say, well, she's wrong because of whatever. Like, whatever didn't work out. Questions on 1 or 2? Sorry, I forgot to ask on number 1. So a reminder, we should all have a sheet of graph paper out, and if you got it wrong, you're writing down the correction now. Because next week we'll have a different activity to make sure we're actually mastered on this.
What do we do for the question, too? Just write what you wrote down?
Yeah, I mean, we're just showing proof of her being right or wrong. So, and then I would say, like, she is correct or she is right, like, because it's asking you, you know, is she right or wrong? This is phrased a little bit differently on your test. Sorry, the issue is Word doesn't work on that computer for me. Word works on my laptop. So I do this stuff on my laptop, and then I print it and everything else, and so this is a little bit different. Show a diagrams of pluses and minuses. We know how to do that, but my advice to you to solve these easily, once I have, sorry, these are negatives. Once I have these, group them up. I have 5 negatives there, 2 negatives there, but just put these with that group. I really have 7 negatives, and then 6 positives, and I can, oh, sorry, that's green. And then I can show that I end up with 1 negative left over. Here, same thing, but we end up with 2 negatives left over.
Can I do something like to show how I did that in 3A?
I wish, but I gotta move so fast today, I'm probably just gonna keep rolling.
Okay, I just canceled out the -5 and then
With the 6,
yeah.
and yeah, so there's multiple ways we can show this.
And then I just added them together.
So Scythe is saying when he put these together, he ended up with 1 plus left over, and then 2 negatives. So yeah, we make a 0 and then have -1. Yeah.
I put the right answer and you circled it.
You maybe didn't do a diagram or something like that. See me later if you want to chat
No,
about
but
it.
you put a check on one and then you put, I said the answer on the other and then you just like circled it.
Let me check it out here later. Okay. For A and B, most of us got right. C and D, a lot of us got wrong. What does percent mean? Anybody? Out of 100, right? Or per 100. And yeah, like part to whole, right? Percents are part compared to whole. So this was easier, not easy, but easier, right? That number over 100. Same thing here. this number over 100. We don't have to reduce yet. You can if you want to. Like the fraction can be reduced. You don't have to.
Oh, I don't?
No, not yet.
Thank
Do I say reduce or simplify?
No.
No, I just say rewrite.
It's just embedded in my brain.
Then this, that doesn't change what percent means. You just told me percent means over 100. It still means over 100 even when it's improper. So then the decimal of this is 1.45. D was where a lot of us tripped up. So, hang on. Keep your eyes for a second. Means out of one. Read this properly. Most of us, and I think it was most of us, put this, which is wrong. Because that would actually be 20%. What we should actually have here, Desi, 0.02
because, can I explain it?
Yeah, how do you say this?
200, but I put 210.
Did I mark it right?
You didn't mark it.
Maybe I just missed it. It should be 200s
Yeah, but why?
and 200s.
If it was a 20 and put 100, but if it's a 2, it's going to be a 10.
No, because percent always means out of 100. So 2% means 2 out of 100. So imagine if you flip over to the back, the 100 squares that we have, the grid, that's 100 squares. If you just shade in 2 of them, literally just 2 boxes, that's 2%.
Yeah, but the 0.02 is because it's a 2, not a 20 or a 200.
Yeah, and I could make this 0.2 if I wanted to, but I cannot put a 0 here, right? That changes the number.
Unless you have a point in between the 2 and the 0.
Yeah, and we don't really do that in fractions. So this just becomes 0.02. Other questions on that? Trust what you know. Percent means out of 100. 2 out of 100, 200 in that second decimal place.
I'm surprised I got that right.
A lot of us did well on number 5. Now, here's what a lot of us didn't do well. Reading. Explain the pattern in words. If this is circled or if you have a question mark out beside your problem, you probably didn't do everything. So a lot of you looked at like 8, 12, 16, 20. Oh, I know how to count like this. 24, 28, 32. And then you moved on. And you didn't ever write like adding by 4 or increasing by 4 or going up by 4. If you did, good job. All right, refocus. I only got 11 minutes. B, same thing, increasing, but now it's increasing by 7. So your next few here, and some of us just like goofed up on the math, and I was kind of forgiving on that, but 33, 40, 47. Now C was the hardest, because what is C doing? By
3.
Or, and it might have been in this class, Christian, adding -3. We could talk about it 2 different ways, right? Reducing by 3 or adding by -3. Either way, what's my next number?
It's going to be 2.
2, careful. -1, -4.
I wrote it right.
And then you need the verbal. But I'm going to keep moving on because I'm trying to save time. So, middle would be adding by 7 or increasing by 7. And then reducing by 3 or subtracting 3 or adding -3. A lot of ways that we can say that correctly.
What do you mean?
What?
What do you mean for canteen as your name?
Penguin. But I couldn't find my actual penguin outfit, so I am the abbreviated penguin today. I don't know what happened. I think I let a friend borrow it. Alright, in 6, which you can tell the formatting's different. Your test versus my test. In 6, be careful with order of operations. Now, hey, yo, hi, up here. I have very limited time today. Please, guys, if you have a question, direct it up here, because it probably will help all of your classmates. When I grade your tests and I give you feedback, I do it based off what we're going to do with your tests. I didn't write as much on these tests as I would normally because I knew we were going to talk about it together. A lot of you, actually, if you got this wrong, I would have written on your test order of ops, order of operations. Because what you goofed up is the order in which you did things, or a few of you just got signs wrong. And I think for some of you I wrote signs like question mark. If we have negative, negative, negative multiplied, always think of your sign first. It'll make your life easier and avoid mistakes. What's my sign going to be here? Negative, right? These pair up and make a positive. But then this negative doesn't have a pair, doesn't have a partner. So my answer is going to be negative. What's 4 times 5? Times 2. We get negative 40.
Yeah, I screwed up on the C.
We are at the bad guy cafe, and bad guy 5 walks in, another bad guy 5 walks in, and then a bad guy 1 walks in. How much bad is in the cafe? Yeah, negative 11.
You know what? I wonder if they all own bikes.
Probably, like black motorcycles. What do I do first in C? So, the multiplication because order of operations. If you added first, that's what you screwed up. Let's like make each other feel better. Who added first? Right? And now you're like, oh, I know that. So here's the deal. This is also one of the reasons that we do assessments like occasionally and all that stuff. You got to get yourself comfortable with being assessed. No, well, not just being wrong. I mean, yeah, you're going to make mistakes. But like in an assessment, don't forget about like order of operations. Don't forget like about those like embedded rules that you've been like learning for a long time. Like make sure that you keep those at the front of your brain. So what is 7 times negative 6?
Negative 35.
Ooh, careful. Negative 42. 7, 14, 21. Right? And then double that. 7, 14, 21. Double it. So 68 plus negative 42. I can't write today. Yeah, the difference between 68 and 42 is 26 and the good guy wins. In D, I'm going to sound like a broken record. What do we do first? Multiply. 4 times negative 6. Negative 24. Bad guy, bigger bad guy. Questions? Questions? Math questions. Alex.
Oh wait, never mind. I got it right.
You sure?
Yeah.
Even if you got it right, do you have a question?
No.
That's a good point to make. Even though you got something right, Dylan? Even though you got something right, doesn't have to mean that you totally understood it. Like maybe you took a guess at it and you got it, and now you're like, oh, I'm so glad I got that. But if you still don't understand it, ask for help, guys. A classmate, look it up in the book. Come ask me. Google it. I don't care. Calculus in college, I survived that because of Google. Like for real, if you're willing to put in the effort, you can learn anything. You can do anything. It's all about effort. Here, I gotta scoot this over a little bit. Now, a few of you, and I was forgiving, but you didn't read the directions. Place a dot and label it. Some of you just put the letters. So if you just had this, okay, sure. But you were supposed to put a dot and a dot and a dot.
Mr. Hudson.
Jose, or Alex. Jose's over here talking and it's in my head. Sorry, Alex.
What's funny is I actually did that, but I put the V and the X and the W in different places. Like I didn't know where they were at first, but then I actually looked at the problem.
Yeah, so value, right? high value, 0 value, and I don't think anything really has negative value. Like, here, man, I'll pay you $100 to take this painting. Like, that wouldn't make sense. But, like, the painting you made in kindergarten, right? It's not that old, but really no one's going to pay anything for it. But the painting that, so this is a crazy story I'll tell real quick. Banksy, who is a famous like graffiti artist and also like a gallery artist, they just sold one of his paintings for over £1 million. Jesse, tell the story. Make it under a minute.
Okay, so they sold this painting for over $1 million, and so when it was finally said sold, the painting shredded itself, like it turned on.
So if you can imagine. So they're in an auction, right? So I'm gonna let you finish telling the story, but so they're bidding, and then all of a sudden, like, okay, bids are over, sold. That noise, all of a sudden,
it shredded the painting, and so now it's probably worth more than it was sold for.
The frame. So you gotta give the details. The frame.
Inside the frame, there's a video online. If you look up, it's him building the frame, and it's razors inside the frame.
The frame's a shredder.
Yeah, and it's like that's why it was so big of a frame, because it's a shredder and it just like slides. Like you can see, it goes so slow. It's like.
So as soon as they hit the gavel, the painting just starts moving and slowly goes down, and it comes out the bottom in shredded strips. Well, Banksy has a lot of weird. We gotta get back on the math, but like, look up Banksy if you're interested. He's a really cool artist.
And they said that it's worth like millions now.
Well, and that was the debate, is like, was the person who bought it going to be upset? And actually, she's like, now I own a piece of art history. Not just art, but like this event happened.
And people think that somebody that was working for him was there, and he clicked a button.
Oh, he could have been there. We don't know who Banksy is. His identity's protected.
We don't know. You don't know who he is?
I don't think. He like always wears a mask, right?
No, when they interviewed him, he was wearing, he had a voice different thing, and he had a hood.
Yeah, last I knew, they don't know who he is because technically he breaks the law.
Yeah.
Like his graffiti art, but because he's like an actual artist, most of the time it's like, oh my gosh, Banksy painted my building, this is awesome. Like he painted on the side of a school once, and the school like put up a plaque, and they're like, yeah, this was Banksy. Like it was, yeah. So look him up. He's a very interesting guy. The Magic Diamonds, or whatever you guys want to call them, I call them the Magic Diamonds because they really help your math skills. This is the hardest. Yeah, I would argue this is the hardest. So A, you know what we multiply to make. We multiply to make a positive 3. So if I start with a negative 1, think about sign first. Does this need to be positive or negative? Negative. Then 1 times what makes 3? Oh, 3. Then we add them. Okay, negative 4. Right, bad guy, bad guy. Here, the problem is I don't know either of the pieces, but I know that they have to make negative 14. So 1 has to be positive and 1 has to be negative. To multiply and make a negative, we have to have an odd amount of negatives. So here, just one of them, right? So then think through the factors. 1 to 14, 2 and 7. I think that's it. Then we need to add to negative 5. Sorry?
It would be on the left side negative 7, and then on the right side it would be positive 2.
And actually, where you put these doesn't matter, but yeah, positive 2, negative 7. Because they then add to make negative 5. Because you can test these. There's only 4 different combinations. Positive, negative, or flip them. Positive, negative, or flip them. And test it.
The reason why I said that
Good morning, Phoenix. Just a reminder for any of our Phoenix students that have Worthing Way as your neighborhood middle school. If you plan to go to the Worthing Way canteen, your $5 admission fee is due in the Phoenix office by noon today. We cannot accept late payments. Admission for the Worthing Way canteen of $5 is due in the Phoenix office by noon today. Thank you.
We got to this problem in the morning class, but I'll probably just pick this up here on Monday. Do not lose this. Hey, give me your eyes for a second. If you lose this, you have to redo it. Do not lose this. We'll pick this up on Monday. I don't care about where where it is now. I care about where it is next week. No. The decimal moves 2 places to the right.
It's 0.5%.